Good morning to everybody. Before we get into the topic and its discussion, okay, let's rewrap what had been discussed in previous deliberation. That we had a glance of the previous age called Age of Enlightenment or Age of Reason, wherein it had a direct impact on the Romantic literature part. I mean to say, as I said in earlier stage, that Romantic age, it doesn't, or it didn't emerge in air like that in vacuum. It had its history, it had its own implications, and it was a sudden reaction to its predecessors. Like it's few years ago, what happened, that mattered a lot for Romantic writers in simple way. Therefore, we had to look at the Enlightenment age, its thoughts, its writers' ideas, and what were some major developments during the 18th century, particularly first half of 18th century. And second half of the 18th century certainly had direct impact, like French Revolution, American Revolution, Age of Sensibility, and Gothic elements in literature. Okay, particularly Anna Radcliffe, Walpole's works. So having discussed that till this point, okay, let's get into the major section of our discussion. That is literature part of Romantic age. When you say Romantic age, mostly it's poetic output rather than any other genre or form of literature. When we say poetry of Romantic age, suddenly we are reminded of two people, especially Wordsworth and Coleridge, because they were the one who initiated a new era of writing poetry, particularly in simple way. So we have we have this glimpse of Romantic age, Romantic poetry. But exactly who said this? Romantic age. Yaru ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ romance ಅಂತ, romantic criticism ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ romantic age ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೋ? It's not the poets who claimed themselves as romantics. Okay, our words nor words claimed themselves as romantics. Never ever. Initially, I'm talking per se. Therefore, let's have a glimpse of the whole process, how it started, and who are the major proponents of this age, and what was the content of their writing, and what were they known for, and how come they are still existing in our textbooks. Okay, let's look at these aspects. So I'm taking you through some slides, if you don't mind, because it may help you grasp some words, some lines. Okay, I was talking about the term romantic literature, romantic age, that it's not self-claimed movement saying we are the romantic writers and here we are producing romantic literature. It's not like that. It was just immediate reaction against the previous age called Enlightenment and what do you call industrialization and too much of reasoning. Okay, and the Romantic writers thought, okay, let's go back to nature. There we have every answer to our questions. So this sort, they thought the escape to previous age or the past, what you call nostalgic, would be a better way of living rather than struggling in the present. So of course, this is not the same dogma followed by everybody. Each romantic writer, each romantic poet thought in a different way. For instance, completely rebellious. Shelley was, again, like Byron and Shelley both were like rebellious. Keats was a bit submissive. Later, he felt, and he replied in his own way through literature. So let's go by stages. Now, before getting into the writers, poets, I just wanted to see the definition of romantic movement. Who said this, first of all, and did they call themselves? No. As I say, no self-styled romantic movement at the time. Means there was nothing called as we are the romantics. In India, we had Dalit movement, we had Navya movement, Navodaya. People call themselves Navodaya. Now Navodayadavaru, now Dalit Sahityadoru ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. But ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಗಲ್ಲ. There was nothing called romantic movement as per se initially. Okay, and the great writers of the period did not call themselves romantics until, look at the name, Mr. August Schlegel. He was a German philosopher writer who termed them as romantics. One of his presentation in Germany, I think it was 1808, 1808 ಕೂಡ ಇವರಿಗೆ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. So the word first which was used as roman or romance, it did not have any connotation to what's a human love between human beings. It's not like that. It was a distinction between classic and the quality of romance. Okay, there was a pure virtue kind of thing rather than a carnal love. It's beyond the present meaning. It was beyond its present meaning. Okay, but later, because of wide range of usage, of course, there is little change in the meaning. But look at the statement of Wordsworth. He said regarding poetry, he said the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings recollected in tranquility. Okay, ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಇಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಒಬ್ಬರೇ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೋ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಪೋಯಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಸಾಲಿಟರಿ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್, ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ melancholy, there is enthusiasm in ನ್ಯೂ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಇಷ್ಟು ಎರಡು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಕಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಮಿಲಾರಿಟಿ ವಾಟ್ Wordsworth said and what Schlegel said. Both of them have a kind of similar thoughts. When you see the definitions of romanticism, we have few of them who explained or who defined romantic literature, romantic poetry. So he says many writers thought something new was happening. He says, William Blake said this: a new heaven is begun. ಸ್ವರ್ಗನೇ ಭೂಮಿಗೆ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, because of the new trend in writing. William, before 1798, before the publication of Lyrical Ballads, before Wordsworth or Coleridge, it is William Blake who said, no, there is a new way of writing, there is a new charisma in literature, because he saw change in the writing way because of a new sensibility, Gothic elements. But later Shelley says, see, Shelley was not just a poet, he was a critic too. He used to write essays, he used to write letters. He says, the world's great age begins now. So for him, whatever happened was age of dark, but now we have definitely a new age. The world is beginning now, he says. And again, Keats, who was a very sensible fellow, one of my favorites, John Keats, he expressed in his own subtle way about the new trend called romance or romantics. He says these means the people who were his friends, like Leigh and William Wordsworth, his senior. Referring to them, he says, these will give the world another heart and other pulses. So ಬದುಕೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ನಾಡಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇವರು, ಹೊಸ ಆಸೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೊಸ ಒಂದು ಉಸಿರನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇವರಿಬ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So the changed from I hope I wish I could share with you a different slide in the image. ಹೇಗೆ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಒಟ್ಟೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಬಂತು ಅಂತ. Earlier it was a God and man, God and nature, God and creation, man and creation, like this. And later what happened in medieval ages, or because of science intervention, things changed. It was between man and science, society and man. And later now, modern what happens? Literature means technology and man and again no God. It's difficult to accept God because we have so many questions to answer. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ when you look at the literature which was produced in 19th century, looking at that, John Keats says that Yes, we have new literature, new output of thoughts, which is going to give a new pulse, new heart to people live in. Because whatever happened in the previous age was, it was it was always reckoning with too much of reasoning, too much of enlightened thoughts. He said no more enlightened discussions, no more uh, elite classy discussions. We are going to lead a very common life with simple lyrics. That was the uh, meaning that he proposed. Then, when we look at the characteristics of the age from 1798 or ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಒಂದು 10 ವರ್ಷ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ತಗೋಬಹುದು ನೀವು. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ತಗೊಳ್ಬಹುದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಟಿಲ್ ದ ಡೆತ್ ಆಫ್ ವಿಲಿಯಂ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ವರ್ತ್. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಅವ್ರ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು 1798 ಇಂದ 1855 ವರೆಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ ಟೈಮ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಮೈ ಕನ್ವೀನಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಎನಿ ಕ್ರಿಟಿಕ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಸೆಡ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು 50-60 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಒಂದು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನು ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಗುಣಲಕ್ಷಣಗಳು ಏನು, ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸಮ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಏಜ್ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫ್ಯೂ. ಓಕೆ, ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆನಿ. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ if you have any subjective reading and interpretation of age, we have plenty of characters, but still there are some agreeable, there is an honors on these characters. First one was the celebration of nature. Obviously, when people were fed up with too much of a scientific approach, industrial revolution, migration from rural area to cities, people that know this is not the way we should live, or this is not the intent of human life. No, we are not supposed to do it. Let's go back to nature, they said. Back to nature, what you call. And what do you mean by back to nature? Sitting idly, maybe. At the same time, meditating. Okay, not just I can turn the camera and show you later, of course. And you are amid nature, lush green. There is no noise of machinery. There is no smog at all. You feel very happy, and you get a beautiful time to spend with yourself. Okay, what do you call ಆತ್ಮಾವಲೋಕನಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ನಿಸರ್ಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅವರು. Then another important feature of this time was focus on common man. It was very brilliant. It was because that the focus was on common man because of, I feel it's because of the French Revolution and its impact. ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಭಾವ ಬೀರಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾರು ಕೂಡ ಅಷ್ಟು ಹಗುರವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡೋಕೆ ರೆಡಿ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ it had proved that common man's rage can create a devastation in any country, per se. Yes, I was talking about second feature of characteristic feature of this age, which is called focus on common. It doesn't mean that we never spoke or we never discussed issue related to common men. We did, but the thing is, during the 18th century, man became silent. I mean to say, man's voice became silent. Individual's voice became silent, and what happened? God was predominant. Church became predominant, and people could not speak against state. State, church were predominant. Therefore, the voice of man was bit submissive. It was subjugated altogether. But now, romantics started to talk about individuals of feelings, what he thinks, what he wants, what are his desires, how does he want to express. ಹೀಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ, ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೇಗೆ ತನ್ನ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿತ್ವನ ಪ್ರಕಟಿಸಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಷ್ಟು ಫ್ರೀಡಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಚೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಫಾರ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ವಾಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಲೈಕ್ ಸಾಲಿಟರಿ is very subject of the poetry. A girl who is collecting flowers is a subject of poetry. Lucy, an imaginary girl becomes a subject of poetry. So we could never imagine, for instance, In ancient mariner, a small boy becomes one of the subjects of the poetry, and a mariner becomes a hero of old story. So here, for the first time, uh, people started to focus on uh, a forgotten community of human race. Okay, then as I said, third point is the individual's experience. Of course, literature is written on the basis of individual's experience, and whatever we see in the history of literature, it's individual's experience and his thoughts. But the thing is, it was not given prominence. It was not given importance. What you feel, what is your experience. For instance, even though I have bad experience, I'm not supposed to speak bad, or I'm not sure I'm not supposed to share bad experience, because there is something called social constraint, which means ನೀನು ಏನೇ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ನೀನು ಸಮಾಜದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದೇ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು. Whatever the state does, ಸರ್ಕಾರ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ you should be supportive to the government stance. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಏನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತದಕ್ಕೆ ಜೈ ಅನ್ಬೇಕು. That was a attitude of enlightenment age. No, what individual thinks, what are his experience matter a lot. Then there we have another aspect, primitive age and its glory. They had a lot of regard. They respected a lot. Primitive ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಹಳೆಯದು ಯಾವುದಿದೆ, ಈ ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾವುದಿತ್ತು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಬೆಲೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಿದೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್, if you look at Grecian urn, okay, Keats or Ode on Grecian urn, it's completely a primitive picture of a Greek village. Okay, and he could not ignore it. His mind was captured because of the dusty atmosphere, the classy touch which was given on the urn, on the ಉಜಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಚಿತ್ತಾರ, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಹಳೆದಾದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಹಳೆದು ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಯ್ತು. Many people spoke with regard to Milton. Shakespeare was revisited, and medieval age writers were revisited. Spencerian stanza was reattempted. So ಈ ತರ ಹಳೆಯದನ್ನ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರು. They revisited the old thing. The primitive was certainly regarded very much. And next, as I said, these are all the reactions to the previous age called Enlightenment. Then there's another important aspect of this age is melancholy and isolation. Melancholy is one common aspect wherever you go, in terms of poetry, romantic poetry, I'd say. For instance, melancholy ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಎ ಡಲ್ ಮೂಡ್, ಒಂದು ದುಃಖವನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ದುಃಖ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಣ್ಣೀರಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ ಏಕ್ ಇನ್ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಚೂಟುವಂತ ನೋವು ಅಂತಾರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಹೌ ಯು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಮೆಲಂಕಲಿ, ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ದುಃಖ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಯಾಕಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ. You don't know the reason why you are sad or upset. No other literature prior to Romanticism ever focused on this aspect called melancholy. And if you read romantic literature, I request you to read the original text of romantic writers. Other flavor ಬೇರೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. So therefore, in order to understand the melancholy, to enjoy this melancholy, they sought isolation. ಐಸೋಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏಕಾಂತವನ್ನು ಬಯಸಿದ್ರು ಅವರು. ಜನಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇದ್ದು ಆರಾಮಾಗಿ ಪಾರ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪೋಟ್ರಿ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ. They were completely withdrawn from reality, I mean to say the real world around them. They sought individual isolation so that they can recollect, so that they can enjoy their memories. Okay, nostalgia ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ nostalgia ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು to rejoice this melancholy. Okay. And another important characteristic of this image was emergence of women writers, female writers. It doesn't mean that there were no women writers earlier. There were, but thing is, for the first time, women were given a chance to publish their works, which is very vital, very, very important aspect. For instance, before typically the publication of Lyrical Ballads, there was a woman called Mary Wollstonecraft. Later we will see the name. She had published a letter or an argument saying a vindication to the rights of women. Adad nantara we have her daughter Mary Shelley, and later we have Anne Radcliffe. Then we have a novelist Jane Eyre. So these people could express themselves so freely, fluently, and they formatted their own thoughts, their own ideas, and therefore the individual experience mattered here. An individual as a woman mattered. They did not let go that very easily. They captured their emotions, they captured their experiences, and collected them in the form of literature. So ಹೆಣ್ಣು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ತು. ಬರೀ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಲ್ಲ, ಬರೀ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕಲ್ಲ, ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಅನ್ಸಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಬರೆದು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿತ್ತು. ಮೇ ಬಿ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ರೀಸನ್ಸ್. ಫ್ರೆಂಚ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಈ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ನ್ಯೂ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಇನ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಗಾಡ್ವಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವನು ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಕ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ದೆನ್ ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಸಿ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ದೀಸ್ ಪೀಪಲ್, ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಡ್ who are the writers and who are called the masters of romantic literature. Okay, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಮುಂಚೆ ಈ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಕ್ ಏಜ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ನಾವು ಜನರಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಯಾವುದು 1798 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದೇನು ಲಿರಿಕಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಲ್ವಾ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಗಮನ ಇಟ್ಟು ನೋಡೋಣ. ಅದ ನಂತರ ಟೈಮ್ ಟು ಟೈಮ್ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ. ಓಕೆ, the publication of lyrical ballads 1798 it was published in, and second it was a kind of I would say it's a humongous book. 4 editions. 4 ಸರಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬರೆದು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. Second edition is very important, which was published in 1800 because it carried Wordsworth preface. Preface ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಅಗೇನ್ as I said 2 ವರ್ಷ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತು ನಾವು ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನಿಸ್ತು. So Wordsworth preface was very important because it gave a new dimension to their writing. And it was a very authentic record now that we are writing and look at this. It was like an appeal, and he was what to say, defending his kind of poetry, particular lyrics, subjective lyrics. So ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಕಾವ್ಯವನ್ನ ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾರು ಬರ್ದಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಬರ್ದಿರೋ ರೀತಿಯನ್ನ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಡಿಫೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಪ್ರಿಫೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. And next edition was published in 1802, and there he uses poetic diction. He explains the way a poet should use the language, common man's language. Discuss. Fourth edition was in 1805, and the thing is, lyrical ballads actually overturns the scholarly poetry, and it makes it very easily accessible to common man. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರು ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ದೃಢ ನಿಶ್ಚಯದಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನ ಬರೆದಿದ್ರು ಅವರು. ಯಾರು ಓದ್ಬೇಕು, ಯಾರು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಓದ್ಬೋದು, ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ. When is it possible? When the language is very easy to understand, when the diction means use of words, selection of choice of words is made easy, and apart from all these things, it should talk about human emotions, not a godly creation. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಅಂತಾನೆ ದೇವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಅಟೆನ್ಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Then Wordsworth said, let us not talk God or state anymore, let's talk about human emotions. Screen ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಂತರ let us say the proponents or the masters of romantic literature. Again, as I said, don't be confused with the word romantic. Okay, it has nothing to do with the film romance. Again, please. The first person we see as a romantic poet is William Blake. He wrote before the publication of lyrical ballads. Okay, William Blake was a painter, an engraver, and a publisher, a printer also. But though he had a legacy, a family legacy, he was treated like a mad person. He was treated like insane. Buddhila anta ಬೈತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವನಿಗೆ, because of various reasons. He had the visionary element, you'd say. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವ್ರು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ದೇವ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಏನೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವರು. I'm going to share with you a slide where he had drawn his pictures. They are beautiful, remarkable. But when he was alive, people could not accept him as a great poet. It's only after the death of the poet people started to appreciate after a long time. So he was less known in his time, and he was dismissed as a mad. But he is known for his two remarkable collection of poems. One is Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. Okay, and there's another important poem called Jerusalem. Uh, in fact, it was treated like uh, you know unofficial anthem of England, okay, national anthem ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. So as I said, he had these visual impressions, visionary impressions. He used to say, I can see God, I can talk to gods. Then he used to uh, discuss these things with his friends. Then people say, you are mad. You have nothing to do with God or creations. You are just a common man to ಬೈತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. But still now, his influential is so great in later stage that people still worship him as a visionary, a great visionary. Okay, now I'm going to show you later. You can see a slide where we have the image of a slide of various images. Simple ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ಪೋಯಂ ಬರಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಆ ಪೋಯಂ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಚಿತ್ರ ಕೂಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದ್ರ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. You can browse through internet for tiger poem. The spelling is different. It's Tyger, not Tiger. Okay, the type mode nodi, you will get an image where one side you have the written format of the lyrics, other side you have the image of a tiger in forest. ಹೀಗೇನೆ ಅವ್ರ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇರೋದೆಲ್ಲನೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಒಂದು ಚಿತ್ರವನ್ನು ಬಿಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ನಂತರ ಪದ್ಯವನ್ನು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. Look at the poem called London. ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೇನೆ. There is an old man who is led by a small boy. ಆ ಚಿತ್ರ ಇದೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ poem ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. And there is another poem called The Fly ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, in his drawing he literally drew a small fly, okay, and being chased by a small girl. ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು poem ಬರಿತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. Right? ಇದು ಬ್ಲೇಕ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು ವಿಚಾರ. So please remember him as the early romantic poet who was a painter, an engraver. Engraver ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ. Okay, he was an engraver, painter, and publisher, printer too. So he had this brilliant skill called drawing, okay, as an artist. But he was dismissed as a mad fellow because of his visionary elements, right? But later, see, after decades, he is being worshipped as a great visionary. There's a tragedy of an age. Now we have another important writer called William Wordsworth. See, each writer takes at least one semester to be discussed in detail. ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಒಬ್ರು ಒಂದು ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. But I'm trying to introduce them as individuals who were part of this age. That's it. ಅವರ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನಿತ್ತು, ಅವರ ವರ್ಕ್ ಏನೇನು, ಅವರ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಏನಿತ್ತು, ಅವರ ಸಮಯ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು, ಅವರ ಇರುವ ಸಮಯ, ಹಾಗೆ ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಮುಖವಾದ ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಏನಂತ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Okay, I'm not discussing in detail. So there is another important, very important person called William Wordsworth, who was born in 1770 and died in 1850, and he is called as the father of romantic age. Not exact, or you can say the pioneer. You can say pioneer in England, because the romantic age does not confine to just England. It was in Germany, it was in France, it was in Scotland, Ireland. It was in many places. Even it was in America also. So I'm talking only about England. Please keep it in mind. So he had a marital connection with Annette Vallon. It's definitely he didn't marry her, but there was a small amount of time during the French Revolution, and so unfortunately they separated and they had a kid called Caroline. But later he married another girl, and he had a sister called Darothy, who is very important in his life because she used to write his poetry. She used to make a copy of it. Okay, she was active participant in Wordsworth's poetry, and he had another friend called Coleridge. Later we'll see. Okay, and with his collaboration, Wordsworth published Lyrical Ballads. You know that. But please remember one thing in case of Lyrical Ballads. ಇವರಿಬ್ರು ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬನ್ನಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಟೀ ಕುಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ. ಬಟ್ they had at initial stage they had mismatch, they had problems to face. In problems, initially Wordsworth used to write lengthy poems, okay, around 140 lines, 160 lines, 200 lines, whereas Coleridge started to oppose it. What you believe is exactly against what you are trying to write. ನೀವು ಬರೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಲೋಚನೆಗೂ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಸೈಜ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಬಿ ವೆರಿ ಪ್ರಿಸೈಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋದ್ರು ಯಾರು ಕಾಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್. Though Wordsworth was angry and as well as he denied this argument, later he accepted and it was very effective. ಸೊ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಈ ತರ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರೆದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಲಿರಿಕಲ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆಡ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. It is a very augmented edition, as I said earlier, that it was published 4 times after revising. Okay, and what are his basically what you call masterpiece works apart from lyrical ballads ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಒಂದು 20 poems ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಅದರ ಹೊರತಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬರೆದಿರೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಮ್ಯಾಗ್ನಮ್ ಆಪಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಲ್ಯೂಡ್. It was called an autobiographic poem also. He never wanted to publish during his lifetime because of so many issues, like he lost his brother and he was not happy with, and he didn't want to express his personal experience in public domain. So he restricted himself. But after death, it was published posthumously. Prelude was published posthumously. ಸತ್ತ ಕೆಲವು ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಲಾಯಿತು. Then there is another important work called Tintern Abbey, which was published in lyrical ballads. Tintern Abbey ವಿಷಯ ಬಂದಾಗ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ, there is a beautiful line I wanted to share with you. That look at the beginning line itself. He says, 5 years have passed, 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters. Again, I hear these waters rolling from their mountain springs. The moment we read the first 2-3 lines, we are suddenly we are pulled back to our past, a kind of nostalgic aspect. ನಮ್ಮ ಊರುಗಳಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀವಿ ಮಾತನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ. 5 ವರ್ಷ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. I have spent 5 summers, 5 winters and nothing has changed, he says. So ಈ ತರ these people had a striking imagery of nostalgic picture. Okay, and he published many poems in 2 volumes, and my favorite poems are Lucy poems. ಎಂದು ಮರೆಯಕ್ಕಾಗದ poems. ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ನೀವು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಓದಿ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ so called guides or misguides ಅದನ್ನು ಓದಬೇಡಿ. You first enjoy the first primary text, then you go for secondary material. We don't mind for that, but as I said, enjoy the Lucy poems and look at the Tintern Abbey and read Daffodils. The moment I say I was floating like a lonely cloud ಅಂತಂದಾಗ you feel also you're floating like a cloud. You should imagine ಈ poem ಓದಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಏಕಾಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿ ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದ್ರೆ, and you enjoy, then you will rejoice it. Okay, and as I said, Wordsworth, there are many things to talk about Wordsworth. ಒಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ in what you call prelude ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, it is a road to eternity. What a beautiful statement. No one could imagine even about the earth. Boom and ತಕ್ಷಣ it was a commodity to enjoy. It was an earth, it was so many things, but it was never a road to eternity. ನೇಚರ್ನ ಅವ್ರು ಇಷ್ಟು ತುಂಬಾ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಎಂದು ನಾವು ನೆನ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಮುಂಚೆ ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. So it's all about William Wordsworth, and we have his friend called S.T. Coleridge. Again, one of my favorites. ಇಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಫೇವ್ರೇಟ್ಸ್ ರೊಮ್ಯಾಂಟಿಕ್ಸ್. ನೀವು ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಓದಿದ್ರೆ, I hope you have the Rime of Ancient Mariner, which will be addressed by another lecturer. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಇವರ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. You will understand his imagination, you understand his diction, the way he plays with words, the way he plays with imagination is brilliant. Okay, He was a philosopher, poet, a critic also, because his biography literaria is part of English literary criticism tradition. And but thing is, uh, he was being haunted by illness since his childhood. ಚಿಕ್ಕವನಿಂದಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾಯಿಲೆ ಕಾಟ ಇತ್ತು. Therefore, uh, it is said somewhere in the history of literature that he was suffering from bipolar disorder. Okay, and because of some reasons, one of the reasons is his addiction to opium. ಗಾಂಜಾ ಸೇರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟಿ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಬೈಪೋಲಾರ್ ಡಿಸಾರ್ಡರ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವನಿಗೆ. And but fortunately he had a good friend, childhood friend, that is Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮುಂದೆ prose ಅಲ್ಲಿ. He was his good friend from since his school days, and he collaborated with different people like Charles Lamb and Robert Southey. Robert Southey ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ poet. These people collaborated many times and produced many books, many prose pieces in future. And if you look at his major works, as I said, the Ancient Mariner, the Rime of Ancient Mariner, wonderful. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು ಲೈನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ವಾಟರ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್. ಸಮುದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ದಾಹದ ನೀರು ಕುಡಿಯಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತಾ? Look at one ಶಬ್ದ, we have a beautiful word called sublime. Sublime ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ is more than beauty. ಒಂದು ಸೌಂದರ್ಯಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಬ್ದ ಸಬ್ಲೈಮ್. ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಮುಂಗಾರು ಮಳೆ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಒಂದು ಸಾಂಗ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವ್ದೊಂದು ಜೋಗ ಜಲಪಾತ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋಗಿ. ಅಗೇನ್ ಐಮ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಇನ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಈಸಿ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ನೀವು ಜೋಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಜೋಗದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಯಾರು ಕ್ರೇನ್ ಮೂಲಕನೋ ಯಾವ್ದ್ರ ಮೂಲಕನೋ ಸೀದಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಜೋಗದ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನಿಲ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಹೇಗಿರ್ತದೆ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್? ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಯು ಆರ್ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಡ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ, ಒಂಥರ ಒಂದು ರೋಮಾಂಚನ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಭಯನೂ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಖುಷಿನೂ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನೀವು ಸಮುದ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಡನ್ ಕಣ್ಣು ಮುಚ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಲ್ಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಏನೂ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಹೇಗಿರ್ತದೆ? ಒಂದು ಭಯ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಏಳು ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಆ ಮನೋಹರ ದೃಶ್ಯ ನೋಡಕ್ಕೂ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಸಬ್ಲೈಮ್. ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಅನುಭವಿಸೋದು ರೈಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಏನ್ಷಂಟ್ ಮಾರಿನರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಯು ರೀಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಇಟ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಸುಮಾರು ಅದರ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಅದ್ರ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕೋಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್. Poem, as I said now, there's one more line. Ice is here, ice is there. I forgot the line. Yeah, ice was all around. It cracked and growled and roared and bowled. Look at this, musical strings ತರ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ, right? Ice was here, ice was there. The ice was all around. It cracked and growled and roared and howled. So this was the impact of words that he used. Okay. Then he had another important work called Kubla Khan, one of my favorites again. He was writing in an intoxication mode. ಅದು ಓಪಿಯಂ ತಿಂದು, ಓಪಿಯಂ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಗಾಂಜಾ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನ ಸೇವಿಸಿ ಕನಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅವನು ಕುಬ್ಲಾ ಖಾನ್ ಅಂತ ಬರಿತಾ ಹೋದ. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಎ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಬಿಲ್ಟ್ ಬೈ ಕುಬ್ಲಾ ಖಾನ್ ಇನ್ ಝಾನಾಡು ರೆಜಿಮ್. ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರಿತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ. Suddenly, the dream has been disturbed by someone from Porlock. ಅವನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊತಾನೆ in his note. He says, I was being disturbed by Porlock while I was dreaming this Kubla Khan. Therefore, the Kubla Khan poem remains a fragment, means an unfinished poem. There's another unfinished poem called Christabel. I still remember my teacher explaining the veins, blue veins in the white skin of that Christabel, the girl. ಅವಳ ಬಿಳಿ ಮೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ನೀಲಿ ನರಗಳು ಹೇಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತವೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳು ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿಫುಲ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನೇಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ, ಒಂದು ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಶಬ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಕಾಲ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್. ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ದೆಮ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ರೋಟ್ 8 ಕಾನ್ವರ್ಸೇಷನಲ್ ಪೋಯಮ್ಸ್. ಅದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೇನೆ. And he is known for another important work called Biographia Literaria. There he used new terms regarding poetry, regarding romantic elements, regarding nature. In fact, he defended his style of writing, or Wordsworth's style of writing, and he coined many words, and he discussed, the contrast between imagination, primary imagination, secondary imagination, sublime, other things are discussed in this work. And another important thing is his lectures on Shakespeare. After certain time, okay, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದಿನಗಳಾದ ನಂತರ, he was roaming around different universities. He spent much of his time on campus. So campus ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ he gave many lectures on Shakespeare, which are all collected by his students later. Okay, and after what do you call St. Coleridge, we have another important writer. There is P.B. Shelley, or Percy Bysshe Shelley. This is, now we have second generation. First generation ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ? William Blake, Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, and even Robert Southey. ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, but even he is included. Here, there are three people who are called lake poets. Lake poet ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕೆರೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಕುತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಪೋಯಂ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರು, ಬದಲಾಗಿ they belong to Lake district of England. Who are those three people? Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Robert Southey. Now we have second generation. Second generation means the people, those who read Wordsworth and Coleridge, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೈರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು. This is called second generation of romantic age. Here the vigor and the way of expression certainly changed. It seems to be very aggressive. It seems to be very the flow of thoughts are very brilliant compared to Coleridge or Wordsworth. ನಾ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ. ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನೀವು ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇವ್ರನ್ನ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳದೆ, okay, please read the original text of Shelley and Keats particularly. And when I talk about Shelley, he was a flamboyant. He never had a control over his expenditures or economical life planning, and he is called one of the visionary poets. Visionary poets ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಹೇಗಿರಬೇಕು, ಆದರ್ಶಗಳು ಹೇಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಬರೆದವರು. And he reflected contemporary socio-political issues in his poetry, which is very important. Being a romantic, he could not escape from the reality. Oh, ನಾನು romantic poet, I want to be alone, I want to enjoy only nature ಅಂತ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. He certainly talked about his contemporary issues, which was very important. And he married the daughter of William Godwin and Mary Wollstonecraft. It's called Mary Shelley anta. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಡಿ. ವಿಲಿಯಂ ಗಾಡ್ವಿನ್ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಹೆಸರು ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮೇರಿ ವುಲ್ಸ್ಟನ್ಕ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್, ಮಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಮೇರಿನೇ. ನಾವು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂಚೂರು ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ. ಏನಂತ, P.B. Shelley ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಿಲಿಯಂ ಗಾಡ್ವಿನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಮೆಂಟರ್. ವಿಲಿಯಂ ಶೆಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಅವರು. Okay, he forged his thoughts. He what to say, fine-tuned the thoughts of Shelley. He encouraged him to write more and more regarding political thoughts. There's only one more poet called Lord Byron. So Godwin ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, Godwin was the one who was treated as Shelley's mentor. He claimed himself. He was my master, my mentor, my guru ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗುರುವಿನ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಹೆಸರು ಕೂಡ ಮೇರಿ, ಮಗಳ ಹೆಸರು ಕೂಡ ಮೇರಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಾವೇನು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಗುರುವಿನ ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಓಡೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಮದುವೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಲೇಟರ್, ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಮೆನಿ ಇಯರ್ಸ್, when we started to reread the whole text, we understood that no, it is Godwin's daughter, Mary Shelley anta. Okay, and the thing is, I don't know how it happened with him. He was always eloping from place to place with girls. ಚಿಕ್ಕನವರು ಕೂಡ ಬರೀ ಹುಡುಗಿರ ಜೊತೆ ಓಡೋಗೋದು, ಒಂದ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. He was very much interested in traveling, and he never settled in a particular place. He befriended many important people. He encouraged newcomers, and it was so powerful that many times publishers denied to publish. And what do you say, only there was something called underground reading. P.B. Shelley ಬರೆದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ಓದ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕದ್ದು ಮುಚ್ಚಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, because he was arrested for blasphemy or sedition. Blasphemy ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಧರ್ಮ ನಿಂದನೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರೆದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವ್ಯಭಿಚಾರವಾಗಿ ಬರೀತಾನೆ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬೈದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವ್ನು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಿಸಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಸೊ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಆರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಶೆಲ್ಲಿಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್, they used to go underground and read. That's why this is called underground reading, particular Shelley ವಿಷಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. And he was extensively traveling throughout Europe and Asia. And the thing is, his life was not away from tragedy. Okay, ಅವನು ಒಂದಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾಜಿಡಿ ಫಾಲೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅವನಿಂದ. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆನ್ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್, ಸಾಲಗಾರರಿಂದ ಓಡೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ, ಮನೆಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ his work should be remembered. And when we call about his, when we talk about his works, from Marx to Gandhi, from Emerson to pre-Raphaelite writers, ಇವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಶೆಲ್ಲಿನ people were completely inspired by his two aspects. He was non-violent and he was vegetarian. He was advocate of these two aspects, and his major works include Ozymandias, to the west wind, that cloud, to a skylark, and there is a one long verse drama, poetic drama, that's called Sensi. That is the name of the work. And he wrote very important philosophical poems like Revolt of Islam, Alastor, Prometheus, and one of my favorites, I can say, because Prometheus was the one who sought after fire. He fought against gods, and later he was unbound in his works. Okay, ಕತೆ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ ಪ್ರೊಮೋಥಿಯಸ್ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. And there's another philosophical poem called Adonais, which was written addressing John Keats. John Keats ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ Adonais ಅಂತ, ಅವನು ಸತ್ತ ಮೇಲೆ, because Shelley and Keats are good friends. Okay, and there is one important work called Necessity of Atheism ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, which was first written as a student in college. Necessity of Atheism, ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಂತ ಬರೆದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದ. Then he was kicked out of college, and later, because of his later works, he was kicked out of, but he never stopped writing. He went to Italy, and in Pisa he was living for 7 years, and he died there itself. Okay, P.B. Shelley. And later we have John Keats, another important one of favorites and loving writers of the whole world. John Keats, he died at the age of 25. 25 ವಯಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೀವಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, but he wrote so much that the whole world loves him because of his writing. His imagination should be credited. Even now, he should be acknowledged wherever or whenever we read romantic literature. And he was typical romantic fellow, romantic writer. He accentuated emotions so powerfully in literature that though initially he was denied from publication department, later people loved his works. So he actually accentuated emotions. And as I said, he was ignored by critics of his time. It happens with many people. We appreciate people only when they die. ಜನ ಸತ್ತ ನಂತರ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಜೀವಂತವಿದ್ದಾಗ ಮಾತಾಡೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. Even Keats faced the same situation. Many people, literally laughed at his works. And actually he was beleaguered by issues like death of his parents, his brother, and he was beleaguered by his ill health. Later he came to know that he had tuberculosis, the TB ರೋಗ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅದು, he was suffering from it. And though he had the capability of or zeal for life, he could not live for a long time. His poverty, repeating deaths, and ill health, he was suffering so much. And moreover, the constant criticism on his works, negative criticism, okay, adu tumba life alli tumba effect aaytu adike. And in fact, he was inspired by his fellow writers called Leigh Hunt anta avaru bartare. He used to publish a newspaper called The Examiner. There he expressed his emotions and he shared his thoughts. And there John Keats gave a beautiful term to a term. People were criticizing so much that people were so negative about his writings. A base ಹತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೊಸ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅವನು, ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಕೆಪಾಬಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. And he had a beautiful circle, writer circle, like Leigh, P.B. Shelley, Severn. Severn was the one who carried him to Italy during his last days, dying days, and he befriended Clare, John Clare. And in the last few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, he was engaged to Fanny Brown, who tried to save him from the death, but she could not. And finally, Shelley invited him, please come over to Italy. The weather is very good and he will be healed. ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ದ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಧಾರಿಸ್ಕೋಬಹುದು, ಆರೋಗ್ಯ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. But unfortunately, before reaching Pisa, Keats died in Italy, and we still have his memory in Italy. Wherever if you visit, please do visit the graveyard of this person. And after when we talk about Keats, there are few works which cannot escape from our brain. Means when you say Keats, these are the words we remember. What are the words? Like words. There are 6 beautiful words which are still worshipped, revered, like Ode to Night or Ode to Autumn. Then another, there is a favorite, perhaps every boy or every man will like it. There's a La Ballade sans Mercy. So the name shows French connotation, denotation. La Ballade sans Mercy ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಕರುಣೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ತರುಣಿ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಕೋಬಹುದು. ಕರುಣೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ತರುಣಿ ಅಂತ. It's my translation. It's wrong. And there is a beautiful poem regarding mythology, that is the Eve of Saint Agnes. And there is a more important romantic poem, poetic romance ಅಂತಾರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. It's called Endymion, the Lamia, Isabella ಅಂತೇಳಿ. And there is one fragment, unfinished work, which was written in Italy. Or Italy is ಸಾಯೋಕ್ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬರೆದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ poem, that is called Hyperion. Okay, these are the poems to be remembered, particularly odes. Please, whenever you say Keats, please remember the name Ode. Okay, and finally we have another important second generation poet called Lord Byron. The name itself shows that he was a lord, very rich. He had all the things which could be satisfy his desires, but still he was not satisfied. He was the most unsatisfied soul. He was person, according to my understanding. His name is George Gordon Byron, but he is called Lord Byron because of his family background. He was the Lord. He was an influential poet as well as politician. He was not just a poet but politician too, because lords were actively participant in political debates or events. But the thing is, like Shelley, he was also extensive traveler. Shelley and Byron, both of them share a lot of things in common. ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ವಿಷಯಗಳು ಕಾಮನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. Like both were eloping with some girls, both were traveling extensively throughout Asia and particularly East Asia and Europe, and they loved life, freedom of life. ಯಾರ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ಇದ್ದು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬದುಕಬೇಕು ಇಷ್ಟ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. They loved their liberty. And one more thing, very very important aspect for me is, though he was treated like a villain in England, ಅವನು ಬರೆಯೋ ರೀತಿ, ಅವನ ಡೈಲಾಗ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿ ಅವನು ಕೂಡ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. Okay, later he was regarded as national hero in Greece. He was born in England, but he died in Greece, and later there he participated in the Greek Istanbul or Turks. Okay, Constantinople ಅಂತ ಅದು ಅವ್ರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಹೋರಾಡಿ he became a hero for Greeks. And when he died there because of some illness in Greece, the people revered him. People literally cried for his death. Okay, and later he throughout his life, most of his time, second half of his life history, he was accompanied by Shelley for a long time. He was a constant visitor of Shelley's house. ಶೆಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೈರನ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೊನೆ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ವರ್ಷಗಳು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಡಿದುಂಟು. ಅಂಡ್ there is a criticism regarding Lord Byron that he was a homosexual ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. And he used to consume opium. And there are so many negative critical elements about Lord Byron. But what matters is his literature, his works. On first, when he published first his work called Hours of Idleness, he was brutally killed. He was brutally, what to say, he was brutally criticized by critics. ನೀನು ಒಂದು ರೈಟರ್ ಮುಖ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಬಾಯಿ ಬಂದ ಬೈದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ಅವನಿಗೆ. Is this a work? Do you have any seriousness ಅಂತ ಬೈದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. Then he did not, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಬೈದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹಿಂದೆ ಸರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ ಅವನು. He wrote English bards and Scotch reviewers. ನೀವು ಸಿಕ್ಕರೆ ಓದಿ. There he says, fools are my theme, let satire be my song. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅವ್ರಿಗೊಂದು ಮಾತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. He wrote a prose piece as a reaction to the criticism, severe criticism on Hours of Idleness. ಏನ್ ಟೈಟಲ್ ಎಂತದ್ದು? Fools are my theme and let satire be my song. ನೀವು ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಉಗಿಯೋದು ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾನು ನಿಲ್ಸಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. I'm trying to localize the whole line here. That's it. And later he wrote very important work called Childe Harold Pilgrimage. Okay, and as I said, the Romantic people certainly were interested in the medieval age. What Shakespeare wrote, what Milton wrote, what Greeks said, what Latin scholars said, certainly mattered for these people. So Childe was a person who was traveling continuously. Like now in a modern age, we have Childe Harold Pilgrimage. ಅವನು ಸ್ಥಳದಿಂದ ಸ್ಥಳಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ. And when he wrote two cantos, two sections, two parts, he was loudly admired by the whole world. At one point, Byron was completely scolded. He was completely criticized in a negative way. He was abandoned by many people. Publishers hated him. But still, when he wrote two cantos of Childe Harold Pilgrimage, people started to love him because of his writing. And the Childe Harold Pilgrimage. Then he wrote another important work, Don Juan Anteri. Look at the spelling. Don is not Juan. It should be pronounced as Juan. Don Juan. It's the French word again. Don Juan. These two works engrave a cult figure called Byronic hero. What kind of Byronic hero do we say? He is a constant traveler. He does, and he loves women and literature. His style. Important work, there is a Hebrew Melodies. It's a collection of poems, lyrics. Later it was published, it was republished with a lot of editions. So this is about share in common in many ways. Okay, this is all about the poets of Romantic age. Romantic age is poetry and the romanticism. Later, after this form, poetry ಆದ ನಂತರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನು ಬರ್ತದೆ? Novels, essays and criticism ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನೀವು. Anyway, novels ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ. If you have any time, 2 minutes time. That there are two novelists for my understanding. That is one is what is it? Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, and we have another important writer called Jane Austen, who wrote various novels. You know that Pride and Prejudice, Emma. You know the names. And though there was output of novels, They don't share the common element of poetry. Please understand the difference. Poetry had its own nature. Oh, no, novel had its own nature. Novel was still carrying the notion of Gothic element, which was propagated by uh, Walpole and Anne Radcliffe. Anne Radcliffe ಮತ್ತು ವಾಲ್ಪೋಲ್ ಬರ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಗಾಥಿಕ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಯಾರು? ಮೇರಿ ಶೆಲ್ಲಿ. ವೆರಸ್ ಜೇನ್ ಆಸ್ಟಿನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸೆನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಏಜ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಸ್ಟರ್ನ್ ಬರ್ದಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಟ್ರಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಶಾಂಡಿ ಅಂತ ಓದಿರಲ್ಲ, ಓದಿದ್ರಲ್ವಾ, ಅದೇನು ಆಸ್ಟಿನ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಸೊ they were not completely under the influence, denying the impact, but there was not ground sliding ಅಥವಾ ತುಂಬಾ ರಿಮಾರ್ಕಬಲ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೂಯೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕಾಣಲ್ಲ. The novels of romantic age was still under the impression of age of sensibility ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರೋದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Okay, that's why I'm trying to evade the novelist section. And there is another important on our time at least, because it's very important. You whatever happened until this point, in 2 minutes, when it's your period, we have two genres. We have Annette Keats and Lord Byron. Okay, and even John Clare can be considered in a Plowman poet. He was a rich fellow, and he included a lot of romantic elements that were propagated by these people. Okay, so remember these 6 names at least, if not the seventh or eighth one. Thanks so much.